Hello and welcome to the second part of this Catman Easy tutorial, which will be focusing on connecting a sensor in Catman Easy. The physical connection and wiring diagrams are discussed in the hardware tutorials and will not be covered here. If you have connected your sensor to the DAC correctly, you should see a green light here in Catman Easy. If this is not the case, you can click on the Live Update button to update your sensor. Once you have a green light, you can continue to connect the sensor in Catman Easy. To create a new sensor, you click on the Sensor Database tab and a list of sensors should appear on the screen. Most of the standard sensors, such as load cells and LVDTs, are all HPM products and can be found under the HPM transducers section. Other commonly used sensors are strain gauges, and the specific strain gauges can be found under strain gauge bridges. Once you have identified the sensor you want to use, you can right-click on the sensor and select Copy. Then scroll down to the My Sensor menu and right-click on it and select Paste. You should now see a copy of the sensor under the submenu. The reason for creating a copy is so that we can change the properties of the sensor. The sensor database is quite small, and if you cannot find the exact model that matches your sensor, do not panic. You can select a similar sensor and make a copy of it, and then just adjust the properties to match your sensor. This is especially needed when you want to calibrate your sensor such that it gives an output of a physical quantity and not just a voltage or strain value. To set up the calibration characteristics of your sensor, you can select the sensor under the My Sensors menu and click on the Transducer Characteristics tab. There are several ways in which you can specify the sensitivity of your sensor. The most common ways are 2-point span, 0 span, and tabular. The 2-point span gives you the option of providing the sensor with 2 measurement points where the physical quantities are known. For example, using a load cell, if you have 2 known weights, you can load the first weight and press the measure button to read the corresponding voltage. You can then go ahead and load the second weight and measure the second corresponding voltage. You can then also provide the physical quantities of your known weights in the categories here, as well as the physical quantity unit. Please also specify the expected measurement range of your sensor. Please note that your created sensor should be assigned to a measurement channel before you can measure the voltage response. Assigning a sensor to a channel will be covered later in this tutorial. 0-point span works in a similar way, except that you do not specify 2 measurement points, but rather a 0 voltage and a corresponding physical quantity, followed by the sensitivity, usually provided in millivolts or volts per physical quantity unit. Tabular is usually used when the sensitivity of the sensor is not known. You can specify multiple measurement points of a known physical quantity and measure the corresponding voltages, thereby establishing a calibration curve for your sensor. Once you have selected the appropriate calibration settings, you can rename your sensor or provide an adequate description. You can then continue to click on the Update Sensor button in the top left-hand corner, followed by clicking on the DAC Channels tab to take you back to the original screen. Now we are going to link the sensors that you created to the actual corresponding DAC channels. So, on the right hand side, you should see a box that says Sensor Group with various different sensor categories. Please click on the My Sensor category and you should see the list of sensors you created down below. You can now select the appropriate sensor and drag it to the sensor function column and the corresponding channel where you plugged in your sensor. You can now repeat this for all the sensors that you created. You can now select all your active channels and then click on the zero balance button to zero your sensor. If your sensor is correctly connected and the sensor was created correctly, you should see a green light on all your sensors. You can also test the sensor by pressing the Live Update button here and observe if your reading value changes when you agitate the physical sensor. If this is all in order, you can move on to the next section, which will be setting up your data display.